When it comes to my personal life, I put my kids, they're at the top. They always come home and say, "You got your truck?" And when I ask them, I said, "Which one, my pickup truck or my work truck?" And they always say, "Well, your work truck." So they always associate my company with me. So if I'm not driving and they see one on the road, they say, "Hey, Dad, I saw your truck today." So when it comes to being safe and showing the next generation or current generation how it is, whether you're driving your truck or if I'm walking down the street and I got my uniform on, you never know who you're going to come in contact with. So anytime I'm out there, it's got to be professionalism all the time, because that reflects not just on me, but any other truck driver that's out there.
Welcome to Great West Casualty Company's Value-Driven Driving. For those of you who are new to this program, Great West regularly hosts live seminars with drivers to discuss how to prevent large truck crashes. These are often lively talks that include a broad spectrum of drivers, from flatbed and tanker haulers to those new to the industry or having millions of accident-free miles under their belt. The benefit of such group interaction is that everyone walks away at the end having learned something new about their peers, their profession, and themselves. Unfortunately, not everyone can attend a value-driven driving seminar, so we captured the knowledge gleaned from these meetings and developed this video in hopes of sharing this information with a much larger audience. As you watch each module, ask yourself if the solutions recommended by your peers make sense, and more importantly, is there room for improvement in the decisions you make in and around your truck? At the end of this module, you should be able to differentiate between a priority and a value, define the essential 7 driving techniques, and explain what it means to be a value-driven driver. Those in the trucking industry know that professional truck drivers are decision makers. Behind the wheel, decisions can come frequent and fast. In fact, it's estimated that a driver can make at least 160 decisions every mile. When you apply that rate to a 500-mile trip, it adds up to 80,000 decisions. In a week, that's over 500,000 decisions. Those are a lot of choices to make. So what influences those decisions? Professional truck drivers get a lot of direction and advice on how to make good decisions. You have to consider DOT regulations, state and local laws, even company policies and procedures. These may all be well-intentioned, but in the end, the final decision is yours. So how do you reach a decision? What is it based upon? Many decisions are simply based on what you feel is important at the moment. These are called priorities. A priority is something that is very important to you at the time, but may change in importance as circumstances change. For example, imagine you're driving in heavy traffic on a multi-lane highway. Suddenly up ahead you notice there are brake lights on in every lane. Traffic is making an emergency stop. Obviously, the number one priority, the most important decision to make at the time, is to get stopped. But just as you come to a stop, traffic begins to move again. Your next priority is to get moving again. This may sound simplistic, but this illustrates how priorities change as circumstances change. We also know that our decisions can be influenced by values. Unlike priorities, values do not change as circumstances change. They are deeply held beliefs, principles, or convictions that are beyond compromise. This is the premise behind value-driven driving, applying one or more personal and professional values to the decisions you make behind the wheel. Let's consider some of the real-life issues professional truck drivers deal with on a daily basis, and you decide if they are a priority or a value to you. How about fuel economy? Fuel economy is very important to profitability, but are you willing to compromise fuel economy based on particular circumstances? For instance, What if you were parked overnight in freezing temperatures? Would you compromise fuel economy to run the heater and stay warm? How about trust? Is it okay for others to steal money out of your wallet? Take a moment to look at the issues below and decide for yourself whether each is a priority or a value to you. Remember, priorities are important at the time but could change due to circumstances, whereas a value is so important that it's beyond compromise, no matter the situation. We cannot tell you what your priorities and values should be. You have to decide that for yourself. But here's how the drivers we polled responded. Although fuel economy, market share, on-time delivery, profits, compliance, and company policies are all very important, the professional drivers we spoke to agree these issues could all change in importance given the right circumstances. Therefore, these were considered to be priorities. On the other hand, when it comes to honesty, trust, responsibility, accountability, loyalty, and integrity, it was unanimous that these principles cannot be compromised. They are the foundation of a personal and professional value system. Do you agree? Now let's discuss how values affect your driving decisions. In our talks with other drivers, we asked them to list the traits of bad drivers they see out on the road. Their list included texting and talking on a cell phone while driving, tailgating, not using a turn signal, jumping back and forth between lanes, speeding, failing to yield the right-of-way, and road rage, to name a few. Can you relate to these? When we asked how they felt being around these kinds of drivers, they said they felt threatened, intimidated, scared, and even angry. On the other hand, good truck drivers basically did the opposite. They operate their truck in a safe manner and are described as professional, self-disciplined, courteous, and caring. And when others are around good truck drivers on the road, they said it made them feel safe and secure, less stressed, and protected. After deliberating on these good and bad driving techniques and the effects these behaviors have on other drivers, we agreed that protecting life should be a shared value of all professional truck drivers because life should be cherished. It is priceless, and protecting it is beyond compromise. Wouldn't you agree? With that said, the drivers we talked to also came up with a list of driving techniques they felt are key to preventing crashes and protecting lives. We call it the Essential 7 driving techniques, and they are: avoid distractions, be attentive to the road ahead, react properly to hazards, observe proper speed for conditions, maintain proper following distance, maintain one lane, and yield the right-of-way. So if protecting life is a value, and the Essential 7 driving techniques can help prevent crashes and save lives, it only makes sense that we add the Essential 7 driving techniques to our list of personal and professional values. Are you willing to live by these values? If so, then you understand that all of the decisions you make in and around your truck should be based on an unwavering commitment to prevent crashes and injuries, no matter the circumstances. In conclusion, we discussed that professional drivers are decision makers, and the decisions you make in and around your truck are based on priorities or values that you define. Values, in particular, are deeply held beliefs that are considered beyond compromise and may include honesty, trust, and integrity, to name a few. Many drivers add protecting life to their personal value system because life is precious. If we want our highways to become safer, each of us must make a commitment to preventing crashes. To achieve this, try adopting the Essential 7 driving techniques into your driving skills. These techniques are proven to help prevent crashes, save lives, and make other motorists feel safer around us. So practicing these techniques, no matter the circumstances, is beyond compromise. That is what it means to be a value-driven driver. In the modules that follow, we will look at various types of crashes and driving behaviors and examine the factors that increase the likelihood of a loss. We will also put into action the Essential 7 driving techniques and demonstrate how utilizing these methods can help you not only prevent crashes, but stay true to your own principles. Now, as you leave, think about the decisions you make and what it means to be a value-driven driver. Even the most seasoned driver will admit that there is always something new to learn about this profession and oneself. We hope you feel the same and we'll use this opportunity to reflect on ways you can improve as a professional driver and make our roads safer. On behalf of Great West Casualty Company, thank you for taking the time to participate in this program. We appreciate the invaluable service you bring to our country and hope you found this material useful. If you have any additional questions about value-driven driving, please contact your Great West Safety Services Department. Now let's look at another type of loss of control crash: jackknifes. When an articulated vehicle jackknifes, it essentially goes from traveling forward in a straight line position with the trailer directly behind the tractor to being folded into a V or pocket knife shape. Jackknifes are caused by the tractor or trailer losing rolling traction. Rolling traction refers to a tire's adhesion or grip with the road surface as the vehicle is moving. If rolling traction is lost, the spinning or sliding wheels, if locked up, will want to lead. Let's look at a jackknife caused by a tractor's drive wheels losing traction. In this scenario, the drive wheels lose rolling traction due to slippery road conditions. This causes the back end of the tractor to want to lead or come around ahead of the steer tires. This situation is further aggravated by the trailer, which is still moving forward and pushing the tractor around faster to create the jackknife. Tractor jackknifes can also occur if the steer tires lock up and the driver cannot steer. In a similar way, a trailer jackknife occurs when the trailer wheels lose traction and the back of the trailer swings out trying to overtake the tractor. The loss factors that contribute to jackknifes include adverse road conditions, driver behavior, equipment failure, and towing empty or lightly laden trailers. Adverse road conditions increase the likelihood of losing control, especially in slippery conditions like snow and ice. Keep in mind, engaging the interaxle differential lock may be a good option in winter road conditions, but drivers should follow the equipment manufacturer's specifications on when this should be used. Jackknifes can even occur in dry road conditions with help from the driver. Unsafe driving behavior, such as driving too fast for conditions, braking abruptly, using the jake brake or cruise control on a slippery surface, and making sharp turns of the steering wheel can all contribute to a jackknife. Equipment failures can also cause a jackknife, such as a brake failure, improper brake adjustment, or if the service line becomes disconnected and locks up the trailer brakes. The best course of action is to slow down and try to get the unit off the roadway and stopped safely on the shoulder. The final loss factor that contributes to jackknifes involves towing an empty or lightly laden trailer can increase the likelihood of a jackknife and possibly a loss of control crash. Based on these factors, professional drivers have indicated the following essential 7 driving techniques can help prevent jackknifes. First, maintain a proper following distance so you have more time to react to hazards and apply controlled braking if needed. Next, observe the proper speed for conditions. If road conditions deteriorate, slow down or pull over and wait for conditions to improve. In addition, be attentive to the road ahead so you can identify hazards in front of you. This means avoiding distractions inside the cab and out, and staying focused on the task of driving. And finally, know how to react properly to hazards. If bad weather sets in, for instance, remember to avoid using the jake brake and cruise control in slippery conditions. Knowing how to recover from a jackknife is key to maintaining control of your vehicle. Let's look more closely at how this is done. If you notice a jackknife occurring, the goal is to immediately regain rolling traction. Do this by disengaging the clutch if you're using a manual transmission, or shift into neutral for an automatic, and do not use the brake. This includes using the engine brake, especially on slippery surfaces. We want the sliding wheels to spin freely so they can regain rolling traction. Next, steer in the direction of the skid and counter steer if necessary to straighten the vehicle. Let's observe some professional drivers who put this to the test on a live skid pad. Notice as the trailer brakes are activated, the wheels lose traction, and immediately the trailer skids to the right, proof that the sliding wheel will lead. Next, as the trailer brakes are released, the wheels begin to roll freely and traction is regained. In this test, we have lost traction in a spin-out, and our reaction was to get off the accelerator. Notice the drag of the driveline and engine torque is causing the drive wheels to skid. Now we disengage the clutch. The drive wheels suddenly begin to turn at the same speed as the steer wheels, and the truck straightens out and recovers from the jackknife. This concludes the jackknife segment. Let's review our learning objectives. First, we defined a jackknife as an event where either the tractor or trailer wheels lose rolling traction. When this occurs and the wheels start sliding or spinning, they will want to lead and take the unit from a straight line position to that of a V formation. For tractors, if the drive wheels are leading, then the back of the tractor is going to want to slide around and get ahead of the front. Likewise, if the trailer wheels lose traction, it'll want to come around and try to pass the tractor. The factors that contribute to a jackknife include adverse road conditions like ice, snow, and wet surfaces, driver behavior such as driving too fast for conditions, braking abruptly, using the jake brake or cruise control on a slippery surface, and making sharp turns of the steering wheel. Equipment failures such as a brake failure, improper adjustment, or if the service line becomes disconnected and locks up the trailer brakes, as well as towing an empty or lightly laden trailer. And finally, we discussed using the following essential 7 driving techniques to prevent jackknifes. These included maintaining proper following distance, observing the proper speed for conditions, being attentive to the road ahead, avoiding distractions, and reacting properly to hazards. The proper reaction when a jackknife occurs is to disengage the clutch in a manual transmission or shift to neutral in an automatic and get off the brakes to regain rolling traction. Then steer into the skid and make corrections as needed to straighten the vehicle. The next cause of loss of control crashes are lane departures. A lane departure is when the driver drops one or more wheels off the road surface. When this occurs, a skilled driver should be able to retain control of the vehicle and return safely to the roadway. This is the best case scenario. But if the driver fails to react properly when he or she drops a wheel off the road surface, the driver could either leave the roadway completely and end up in a ditch, possibly rolling the vehicle over, or the driver may instinctively jerk the wheel to try and return to the roadway. Overcorrecting, though, typically leads to a jackknife, rollover, or possibly striking other vehicles. There are 3 loss factors that increase the likelihood of a lane departure and subsequent loss of control crash. These factors include distractions, road obstacles, and fatigue. Let's look at these closer. Distractions are one of the most common causes of dropping a wheel off the road surface. They can be classified in one of 3 ways: cognitive, visual, or manual. Cognitive or mental distractions include daydreaming, conversing with a passenger, talking on a cell phone, and being preoccupied with work, family, and other issues. In each case, the driver's mind is focused on something besides driving. Next are visual distractions. Visual distractions can be anything viewed inside or out of the cab that diverts a driver's focus away from driving. For instance, looking away too long to read a billboard or road sign, rubbernecking or gawking at a passing crash scene. These are all examples of visual distractions. And finally, Manual distractions are when a driver uses one or both hands to perform a secondary activity while driving, such as texting, eating, drinking, adjusting the radio or GPS, and reaching for an item dropped on the floor. In all of these cases, the driver is distracted long enough for the vehicle to sway off the road and potentially lose control. Lane departures can also occur when drivers try to avoid an obstacle in the road, such as an animal, pothole, shredded tires, or even an oncoming vehicle that has crossed the center line into your lane. The final factor in loss of control crashes caused by lane departures is fatigue. How often have you felt drowsy enough behind the wheel that you lost track of the last several miles or minutes? Have you found yourself zoning out or having trouble focusing? What about constantly yawning? All of these are signs of fatigue and have dangerous consequences. In fact, if you're traveling at 65 miles per hour and close your eyes or lose focus for as much as 3 seconds, you will have traveled the length of a football field. A lot of bad things can happen in that brief period. Here's a real-world example of a fatigued truck driver who is distracted long enough to lose control of his truck and drive into the median. Notice the driver on the left and the view from his truck on the right. Within 6 seconds of losing focus, the driver is off the road and rolling over. He was fortunate to be wearing his seatbelt. With that in mind, let's look at how to prevent lane departures and loss of control crashes. Going back to our essential 7 driving techniques, we need to avoid all distractions and be attentive to the road ahead. When driving, keep off your cell phone and don't engage in activities other than driving. Furthermore, take the initiative to pull over in a safe place if you're feeling fatigued or distracted by a family or work issue. Better to get off the road and get some rest or resolve the matter than letting it fester and make matters worse. Next, be attentive to the road ahead. This includes being vigilant of oncoming traffic that may cross the center line and into your lane. We'll look at this scenario in a moment, but if this occurs, be sure to stay to the right and slow down to give the oncoming vehicle as much time as possible to get back into their lane. Furthermore, only make quick glances to check mirrors and road signs. This way your eyes can go right back to what's happening in front of you. Drivers should also observe the proper speed for conditions. If driving at night or under adverse conditions, slow down to give yourself plenty of time to react so you don't make any sudden steering inputs that could drop a wheel off the road. The final essential technique is to react properly to hazards. While driving, scan your surroundings and ask yourself what you'd do if a certain hazard presented itself, like a deer crossing the road. Just like any other profession, reacting properly to hazards takes practice and mental preparation. So if a deer or some other obstacle appears in the roadway, for instance, your best reaction may be to hit it rather than risk losing control and putting yourself and others in serious jeopardy. Let's look at how to properly react when we do drop a wheel off on the shoulder. Our drivers pointed out that the instinctive thing to do is to jerk the steering wheel to try and get back onto the road. But you must be prepared to resist that instinct. Instead, get a good grip on the steering wheel, slow down, and ease your truck back onto the road. Not all drop-offs are as gentle as this one, so remember not to panic and overreact. Here's another scenario where a truck is off the road. The driver's on the slope, and his instincts are screaming to get back on the road, but if he tries turning left, it could lead to a rollover. Instead, he turns right onto the level surface of the ditch so he can safely bring the rig to a stop. Remember, if you're off the road, it's not so bad if you remain upright. And finally, let's think about the advice offered by our professional drivers on what to do if an oncoming vehicle crosses the center line into your lane. To avoid a head-on collision, you should slow down, apply controlled braking, and keep as far to the right as possible. If the oncoming motorist realizes they're in your lane, they will instinctively pull back to their lane. You do not want to be in their lane when that happens, so never steer to the left. Always keep to the right. To conclude the lane departure segment, let's review our learning objectives. We started by defining a lane departure as any time the driver drops one or more wheels off the road surface. If not handled properly, This event could lead to the driver overcorrecting to get back on the road and causing a rollover, jackknife, hitting other vehicles, or possibly winding up in a ditch. The factors that contribute to lane departures are distractions, road obstacles, and fatigue. Distractions can be mental, like daydreaming, visual, such as gawking at the vehicle in the adjacent lane, or manual, like texting. Road obstacles, meanwhile, can be anything in the roadway blocking your lane, like a deer or oncoming traffic that has crossed the center line. And then there's fatigue, which is also a form of distraction. Forgetting the last several miles, yawning, and tired eyes are some of the warning signs of fatigue. It's best to find a safe place to pull over and get some rest than risking a crash. And finally, we discussed using the following essential 7 driving techniques to prevent lane departures. These include avoiding all distractions and being attentive to the road ahead. Keep your focus on the task of driving and the hazards in front of you. Next, observe the proper speed for conditions. If driving at night or in adverse conditions, slow down to give yourself more time to react to hazards. Likewise, if a vehicle crosses over the center line, slow down and move to the right. Never go to the left. The final loss of control crash type we will discuss are steer tire blowouts. Steer tire blowouts are caused by air escaping the tire, either through a slow leak or all at once in an explosion. When air pressure is lost, the rubber must work harder than intended to support the vehicle's weight. If enough air pressure is lost, the internal structure of the wheel will begin to break down and eventually cause a blowout. When a steer tire explodes, the vehicle will start to slow down and pull to the side the blowout occurred. The factors that contribute to steer tire blowouts and possibly a loss of control crash include tire damage such as punctures, sidewall damage, and loose, missing, or separated tread, excessive speed, which can wear equipment down more quickly, especially tires and brakes, as well as distractions. If a driver is distracted and does not identify a hazard in the road ahead, such as a pothole, running over it could damage a wheel or tire. Preventing steer tire blowouts begins with thorough vehicle inspections. Before, during, and after a trip, drivers should examine their tires to ensure no damage is present and report any discrepancies to maintenance immediately. Furthermore, consider using only new tires on the steer axle. If retreads are used, make sure they meet state and federal requirements. In addition, when out on the road, remember the following essential 7 driving techniques. To prevent a steer tire blowout, be attentive to the road ahead and look for potholes or debris that could puncture a tire. Avoid all distractions so your attention remains focused on driving and the road ahead. Likewise, observe the proper speed for conditions, such as lowering speeds when driving at night or in adverse weather. This can give you extra time to react to hazards. If a steer tire blowout should occur, knowing how to react properly can mean the difference between bringing the vehicle safely to rest on the side of the road or potentially losing control and winding up in a ditch, or worse. Try to get to the shoulders safely. Do not brake suddenly because the vehicle will be trying to pull to the side of the blowout. Rather, keep pressure on the accelerator to maintain forward momentum and keep the vehicle straight. If necessary, steer in the opposite direction the vehicle is pulling. Once under control, ease off the road to the shoulder and bring the vehicle to a stop. This concludes our segment on preventing loss of control crashes due to steer tire blowouts. In review, we learned that steer tire blowouts are caused by air escaping the tire, either through a slow leak or all at once in an explosion. When this occurs, the vehicle is going to pull in the direction of the blowout. The factors that contribute to steer tire blowouts are damage to the tire, such as punctures, sidewall damage, and loose, missing, or separated tread. Excessive speed, which can wear equipment down more quickly, especially tires and brakes, as well as distractions. Steer tire blowouts can be prevented by conducting thorough vehicle inspections, properly maintaining equipment, and if possible, only using new tires on the steer axle. If retreads are used, make sure they meet state and federal requirements. Furthermore, when driving, the following essential 7 driving techniques can help prevent loss of control crashes in the event of a steer tire blowout. First, be attentive to the road ahead to identify hazards, such as potholes that could puncture a tire. Avoid all distractions and stay focused on the task of driving. Next, observe the proper speed for conditions. Slow down in adverse weather and road conditions to allow yourself more time to react properly to hazards or recover from a blowout. If a blowout occurs, keep your foot on the accelerator. Do not brake. Steer in the direction opposite the vehicle is pulling you to keep it straight. Gently ease up when under control and get the vehicle safely off to the side of the road.
When I'm driving, I do want motorists to trust me, and so if I have a daytime run, one big thing is that they can see my mirrors. They can see me looking in my mirrors in each direction, and I can see that they can see I'm watching them as they go by my vehicle. I always make sure that I give them plenty of room. If I'm going to make a lane change, signal that intent way ahead of time, give them plenty of room before I come out to instill that trust and make sure I'm not tailgating anybody, and just make sure they know I'm paying attention to them as well and keep both of us safe on the road.
Each year, hundreds of millions of incident-free miles are driven on our nation's roadways in commercial trucks. And that is a credit to the dedication and skill of thousands of professional truck drivers. But similar to other professions like commercial airline pilots and locomotive engineers, professional truck drivers work in a very hazardous and highly regulated industry. As a professional truck driver, it's important for you to continually hone your driving skills. That is the purpose of today's training, to help you, the professional driver, improve your ability to prevent one of the most serious types of crashes on our roadways, lane change crashes. At the end of this module, you should be able to explain the loss factors that contribute to lane change crashes, identify the most dangerous areas around your truck that are associated with this type of crash, and determine the appropriate essential 7 driving techniques that can be used to prevent future losses. In addition, there are 5 questions at the end of this module to reinforce your understanding of the material. Unsafe lane changes pose a considerable danger to all motorists. Each crash is unique, and fault must be determined on a case-by-case basis. But for today's training, we will be looking at lane change crashes where the truck driver can be found at fault, from moving his or her truck into an adjacent lane, either to the left or right, and striking another vehicle or forcing it off the road. Lane change crashes are considered one of the 4 critical crashes because of the severe losses they can inflict, including damaged equipment, lost cargo, serious injuries, and fatalities. 5 factors that can contribute to lane change crashes are frequent lane changes, meaning a driver is going faster than the flow of traffic and weaves in and out of traffic lanes. Space management, which refers to drivers who make a lane change without first accounting for all the vehicles around their truck, especially those lingering in the truck's blind spots. Poor planning is when a driver is unfamiliar with their route and makes an abrupt lane change to avoid missing an exit or turn. Likewise, distractions can lead to losses when the driver's attention is diverted away from driving long enough to cause them to drift out of their lane and possibly sideswipe another vehicle or run it off the road. And finally, following distance can factor into lane change crashes when traffic has slowed or stopped ahead and the truck driver hasn't left themselves adequate stopping distance. Rather than stop safely in their lane, the truck driver makes an abrupt lane change and triggers a crash. If you recall from our Introduction to Value-Driven Driving segment, one value drivers commonly share is protecting life. Regardless of the situation, everyone wants to get home safely, so the professional drivers we talked to agreed on 7 essential driving techniques that can be used to protect lives and prevent crashes. They are: avoid distractions, be attentive to the road ahead, react properly to hazards, observe proper speed for conditions, maintain proper following distance, maintain one lane, and yield the right-of-way. Now let's look at how these driving techniques can be applied to the various loss factors that contribute to lane change crashes. The first loss factor we will discuss is frequent lane changes. Let's face it, managing the space around your truck is a daunting task, especially in heavy traffic. You wouldn't be the first to admit there are times when a vehicle suddenly appears from your blind spot that you had no idea was there before. Every time a large truck changes lanes, it's exposing itself to the risk of a critical crash. That's why it only makes sense that the more you stick to one lane, the less likely you are to cause a lane change crash. Thus, maintaining one lane was added to our list of essential 7 driving techniques. Most of the time, staying in one lane is certainly feasible, but we both know that eventually you will have to change lanes at some point in your trip. So let's look at how to do this and minimize the risk. In this aerial view of a truck surrounded by 6 vehicles, which of the 6 do you think is in the most dangerous position? Admittedly, all are in dangerous locations, but some more than others. If you selected number 1, this vehicle should be far enough back on your left side that you could see it in your mirrors. Plus, this motorist should be able to see your turn signal and hopefully give you space to change lanes. Likewise, number 2 can be seen on your right if you use your mirrors and turn signal. Vehicles 3 and 4 are probably in your blind spot, unless you're using elliptical or fender-mounted mirrors. If you were to lose sight of these vehicles and change lanes, they could get sideswiped or run off the road. Again, not a good place to be, but not the most dangerous. Vehicle number 5 is probably in the safest position because looking out your windshield and driver's side window should reveal their location. That leaves number 6 in the right front corner. This driver is in the most dangerous position because it is not only in your blind spot, but this motorist cannot see your truck's turn signal either. If you move over and contact vehicle number 6, this could cause the car to spin out in front of you and possibly lead to secondary collisions. Here's a reenactment of a lane change crash with a car in the number 6 position. As the truck moves to the right, slight impact is made between the right front of the truck and the left rear of the car. This initial impact, although slight, is enough to cause the rear of the car to skid to the right and send it careening out of control across the front of the truck. Let's look at this again in slow motion. Notice the position of the car in relation to the truck. In this position, the driver of the truck may not be aware the car is present. The other problem that may exist is that the driver of the car may not be aware that the truck is slightly behind and to the left. The car driver will not be able to see the truck's turn signals or see the truck begin to move over. In this reenactment, the professional stunt driver in the car loses control and ends up in the median, rolling over several times. This illustrates why lane change crashes are considered critical crashes. Serious injuries, fatalities, and high-dollar claims are commonly associated with this type of crash. So we know that maintaining one lane as much as possible is the best way to avoid lane change crashes, but when a lane change becomes necessary, you need to do everything you can to ensure it is done safely. That is why failing to manage the space around your truck, especially the blind spots, is another loss factor to account for. If you think about the vehicles situated in the lanes around your truck, each of these are hazards to avoid. That's why the professional drivers we consulted agreed it's essential for drivers to be able to react properly to hazards in order to prevent a lane change crash. This can include using your turn signal whenever you need to change lanes, turn it on well in advance so you can alert the vehicles around you of your intent. Next, constantly monitor your mirrors to spot vehicles around you or approaching quickly from behind. Just remember you don't want to cause a rear-end crash by staring too long at your mirrors, so make quick glances and return your focus to the road ahead. If you suspect there are cars in your blind spots, try slowing down a bit. Decreasing speed by 1 to 2 miles per hour may create some separation and possibly expose those vehicles. However, if you suspect a motorist is lingering in the right front corner, the best way to visually verify it's clear is to use the lean and look method. With your seat properly adjusted and having proper following distance ahead, slightly lean up and look down to the right front corner of your truck. Lean and look in a quick motion to verify your blind spot is clear, then return your attention back to the road ahead and check the space around your truck. The lean and look method can also be useful in making left lane changes as well. And lastly, if it's not safe to change lanes, don't try it. Be patient and go to the next exit if necessary. This leads us to our next Essential 7 driving technique: yield the right-of-way. Never attempt to force your way into another lane and expect other motorists to make room for you. They have the right-of-way and you must yield to them. So if it's not safe and legal for you to change lanes, continue on until it is. This may be frustrating, but it's only a minor inconvenience compared to what could happen if you trigger a crash. Continuing on, making abrupt lane changes and causing a crash can be the result of poor planning and distractions. An example of poor trip planning is when a driver is unfamiliar with their route, gets caught off guard by an upcoming exit or turn, then makes an abrupt lane change without first ensuring it's safe to do so. One way to avoid this is to program your GPS before leaving. If you miss your exit or turn, the proper reaction is to stay in your lane and continue on until you can safely and legally turn around and circle back. Distractions affect your ability to perceive and react to hazards. Here's an example of a distracted driver caught on a dash cam making an abrupt lane change. Notice on the right, he has established the proper following distance, but on the left, you will see him start to mess with his cell phone. This driver was lucky to avoid a critical crash when he reacted abruptly to avoid a rear-end crash and swerved into the adjacent lane. This demonstrates why distractions can be so dangerous. It can also cause you to drift out of your lane and possibly cause a sideswipe collision or force other vehicles off the road. For this reason, we added Avoid Distractions to our list of Essential 7 driving techniques. Put your cell phone away while driving so you're not tempted to talk or text on it. Avoid eating and drinking while driving as well. Think what would happen if you started choking. Daydreaming, staring too long at road signs, or gawking at passing crash scenes or other forms of distraction, as is fatigue and stress. If you're feeling tired or tense, the best reaction to these hazards is to pull over in a safe place to rest and refocus. The final loss factor we will discuss is following distance. When traffic is slowed or stopped ahead, lane change crashes can occur when the truck driver does not give themselves enough space to slow down or stop their vehicle. In many cases, like the one we saw in the previous dashcam video, the distracted truck driver reacts improperly to avoid a rear-end crash and makes an abrupt lane change. By maintaining a proper following distance of at least 6 seconds and being attentive to the road ahead, your best option should always be to stay in your lane and come to a controlled stop. To recap, we discussed that lane change crashes are considered a critical crash because of the severe losses they can cause. Factors that increase the likelihood of a lane change crash include frequent lane changes, space management, poor planning, distractions, and following distance. To minimize the risk of a crash, drivers agreed that the essential 7 driving techniques are the best methods a driver can use to prevent a lane change crash. These are: maintain one lane as much as possible and avoid frequent lane changes. React properly to hazards, like signaling well in advance and using the lean and look method to spot a vehicle that might be in your blind spots. Yield the right-of-way, meaning do not force your truck into an adjacent lane if other vehicles won't let you in. It's best to be patient and go to the next exit and turn around rather than sideswiping someone or forcing them off the road. Next, avoid distractions. Distractions inside the cab and out reduce your perception and reaction times and can cause you to drift outside your lane. Keep your focus on the task of driving, and if need be, pull over in a safe place to return calls, get some rest, and refocus. We also discussed the importance of maintaining proper following distance, at least 6 seconds in ideal conditions. Don't get caught off guard by slowing or stopping traffic ahead. Instead, leave yourself plenty of room to stop your truck in your lane rather than making abrupt lane changes. And finally, be attentive to the road ahead. This goes hand in hand with avoiding distractions, maintaining proper following distance, and planning ahead. Give yourself more time to react properly to hazards by staying focused on the traffic ahead, and know when your exit is approaching so you can get over safely and legally. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about preventing lane change crashes. Our learning objectives today were to define the factors that contribute to lane change crashes, identify the most dangerous areas around your truck, and determine which essential 7 driving techniques are best to prevent such losses. We accomplished these goals and hope you found this material insightful. Now, as you leave, please take time to reflect on how this message fits into your own personal and professional values. We hope protecting life is a principle you hold so dearly that it's beyond compromise, and you will use the protective driving techniques discussed today to help prevent lane change crashes. On behalf of Great West Casualty Company, we appreciate the invaluable service you bring to our country, as well as to your efforts to be a value-driven driver. If you have any additional questions about this program, please contact your Great West Safety Services Department.
Well, my approach to safe driving is really staying sharp on my driving skills, my safe driving methods. That's what's going to get me home safe. And some of those are just keeping a good, safe following distance, looking ahead for hazards that I may need to be prepared for and react to, moving my eyes every 2 seconds to keep from becoming distracted, checking my mirrors every 5 to 8 seconds to make sure I know what's around my vehicle. You know, those are some of the safe driving methods that will get you home every time safely.
As a professional truck driver, it's important for you to continually hone your driving skills in order to perform at the highest level. The purpose of today's training is to help you, the professional driver, improve your ability to prevent one of the most serious types of crashes on our roadways: run-under crashes. Run-under crashes are one of the 4 critical crashes because they have the potential for severe losses. From the pain and suffering to the emotional and financial impact, run-under crashes are devastating to all involved. At the end of this module, you should be able to identify 4 driving hazards commonly associated with run-under crashes, explain the loss factors that contribute to run-under crashes, and determine the essential 7 driving techniques that can be used to prevent these types of losses. In addition, there are 5 questions at the end of this module to reinforce your understanding of the material. Run-under crashes occur when the tractor or trailer is placed perpendicular into the path of oncoming traffic, resulting in another vehicle impacting the side of the truck or running under the trailer, typically between the landing gear and rear tandems. In the course of hauling freight, professional truck drivers regularly encounter hazardous situations that put them at an increased risk of a run-under crash. These include turning left at an intersection, crossing a road or divided highway from a side street, backing into customer facilities, and making sharp right-hand turns that can result in a right turn squeeze. Unfortunately, it's unlikely any of these hazards can be completely eliminated from your job. At some point, there will be a need for you to perform at least one of these maneuvers. So how can you do your job safely and prevent a run-under crash from occurring? To answer this, we need to identify the factors that contribute to these types of losses. The first loss factor is timing. Timing refers to how long it takes for a tractor-trailer to successfully cross a road or navigate an intersection. The longer it takes, the more exposed the vehicle is to oncoming traffic. The next loss factor is failure to yield. This is when a truck driver pulls out into the path of oncoming vehicles and blocks travel lanes expecting oncoming traffic to slow down or stop while the truck waits to complete its maneuver. Night conspicuity is another loss factor. This refers to how visible the tractor and trailer are at night to other drivers. Next are U-turns. U-turns expose the side of the truck to oncoming traffic, especially if the driver misjudges the distance needed to complete the U-turn and has to back up. Backing up across travel lanes, especially at night, is another loss factor that increases the risk of a run-under crash. We'll talk about this more in a minute. And finally, we will discuss trailer spacing when making a right-hand turn. Run-under crashes can occur when a truck driver swings their articulated vehicle out to make a sharp right-hand turn, but brings the rear of the trailer too far out from the curb. In opening up the right-hand lane, a trailing motorist can mistake the truck driver's move as a left lane change and try to pass the truck on the right, unaware the truck is about to make a sharp right-hand turn. This is commonly referred to as a right turn squeeze when the truck turns into the vehicle and a side impact occurs. When you think about it, wouldn't you agree that many of the factors that contribute to a run-under crash may potentially be within your control? This is an important point to acknowledge because, as you recall, this program, Value-Driven Driving, is all about decision-making and applying your own personal and professional values to the choices you make behind the wheel. We consulted your peers and tasked them with devising a list of proven driving techniques that could not only help prevent run-under crashes, but other losses as well. They came back with the essential 7 driving techniques. These include yield the right-of-way, react properly to hazards, maintain one lane, avoid distractions, be attentive to the road ahead, maintain proper following distance, and observe proper speed for conditions. Using the essential 7 driving techniques and other safe work practices, let's examine each loss factor more closely and decide the best way to prevent a run-under crash. Whether you're making a left-hand turn at an intersection or crossing a divided highway, timing is crucial. You need to know how long it takes for your vehicle to clear an intersection from a standing start, as well as be able to gauge the closing distance of oncoming traffic. Misjudging either of these can lead directly to a vehicle run-under crash. Let's look at making a left turn at an intersection. How much time would you estimate it takes a fully loaded tractor-trailer to pull off from a standing start to clear an intersection. 6 seconds? 10 seconds? The drivers we spoke to said it takes anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds to pull out and safely make a left turn, depending on factors such as size of the intersection, gear selection, weight of the trailer, etc. Let's put this to the test. We'll start the clock as soon as the truck pulls away. There, it took at least 16 seconds to complete the left turn from a standing start. Now that we know how long it takes to complete this maneuver, we also need to be able to gauge how fast oncoming traffic is approaching. If you recall from the Preventing Rear-End Crashes module, drivers recommended counting seconds as the most accurate method of determining safe following distance. The same method applies here. Start by finding a stationary object, like the power line pole at the top of the hill, and then start counting as soon as oncoming traffic passes it. It took about 9 seconds for that vehicle to reach the intersection, and since we confirmed it takes 15 to 20 seconds to complete this maneuver, the proper reaction to this hazard is to avoid it. Better to continue forward rather than attempting a risky turn and find an alternate route. Furthermore, if this is part of your regular route, you should report this hazard to your safety department so they can contact the local authorities and have a stop sign installed. The next loss factor we will discuss is failure to yield. For the most part, motor vehicles, especially large trucks, should not block the path of oncoming traffic and expect other vehicles that have the right-of-way to slow down or stop. This is a common cause of run-under and side impact crashes, especially when crossing an intersection, railroad tracks, or divided highway. Here's a reenactment from the automobile driver's perspective. As the vehicle approaches, it is clear the truck will not clear its path before impact. Even though the driver of the car has plenty of time to see the truck, this portrayal shows a four-wheeler who is inattentive and distracted. To prevent a run-under or side impact crashes, professional truck drivers added yield the right-of-way to the list of essential 7 driving techniques. In this case, wait for the oncoming car to clear before pulling off. Likewise, obey railroad signals. If a train is coming and your truck happens to stall on the tracks, get out of the vehicle immediately and use the emergency phone at the crossing or call 911. Furthermore, do not pull out into the middle of an intersection waiting for traffic to clear so you can turn. Stay behind the white line and either wait for the next green arrow signal or properly time your maneuver like we discussed earlier. Blocking the intersection needlessly exposes you and your truck to harm and could inhibit emergency vehicles needing to pass. The next loss factor that increases the likelihood of a run-under crash is night conspicuity. Conspicuity means just how conspicuous or easy to see a trailer is when it's blocking a travel lane at night. Run-under crashes frequently occur at night when it's more difficult for other vehicles to see your truck from the side. It is also more difficult for you to judge the distance and approaching speed of an oncoming vehicle. From a four-wheeler's perspective, let's look at a truck making a left-hand turn in the day and night. As you can see, during the daylight, the tractor and trailer are very easy to see, but at night, it's impossible to see the trailer blocking the road. In fact, the trailer's marker lights could be very deceiving to oncoming motorists. Motorists might confuse them for something else entirely, perhaps vehicles way off in the distance. Likewise, with the truck's headlamps shining in the eyes of oncoming motorists, this could hamper the driver's ability to see the trailer markings and reflective tape. In fact, the oncoming motorist could be fooled into thinking the approaching truck is properly in its lane and be completely unaware of the danger ahead. For this reason, professional truck drivers should be mindful of their vehicle's night conspicuity and take preventive measures to ensure they are not the cause of a run-under crash. Start by conducting proper vehicle inspections throughout each trip to ensure all lights are working properly and the trailer's reflective tape is not damaged or obstructed by cargo securement devices. In emergency situations where the truck may be blocking traffic lanes and cannot be moved, Turn on your hazard warning lights and place your reflective triangles or flares on the road in front and behind your truck within 10 minutes of stopping. This will help oncoming motorists see your truck from every direction. You may even need to flash your low beam headlights off and on repeatedly at approaching traffic if it appears they don't see you and aren't slowing down. The next loss factor that contributes to run-under crashes is a U-turn. A U-turn should never be attempted in a tractor-trailer unless you're being instructed to do so by a law enforcement officer. This is because the time it takes to perform a U-turn exposes your tractor and trailer to oncoming traffic much longer than with any other kind of turn or maneuver. Many times, a run-under crash occurs when a truck driver attempts a U-turn after missing a turn or becomes lost. In any case, a U-turn is never the safe option unless traffic control is assisting you. Instead, try these prevention techniques. First, if you miss a turn, try making 4 right-hand turns instead. This allows you to circle back to where you started to make the correct turn. You'll avoid any U-turns and left-hand turns that could put you at risk. Next, plan your trip well in advance. Program your GPS before leaving to ensure you know exactly which turn or exit to take. Quite often when a driver misses their turn, he or she reacts suddenly and makes a bad decision, like attempting a U-turn or an abrupt lane change. Know where you're going by planning ahead. Likewise, use the essential 7 driving technique of avoiding all distractions. Put away your cell phone and other distractions. Focus your attention on driving and be mindful of your surroundings so you don't miss your exit and have to backtrack. The next loss factor we will discuss is backing across travel lanes to get into a customer's facility. This is a hazardous part of your job that increases the likelihood of a run-under crash. In the daytime, dry vans and tankers might be more conspicuous than a flatbed, but at night they are all difficult to see. For this reason, professional truck drivers can help prevent run-under crashes by working in conjunction with their employer and the consignees to identify hazards at each stop on their route before leaving. If any deliveries require backing into or out of a facility across traffic lanes, make arrangements for traffic control in advance so there's no delay in making the delivery. If you arrive at a delivery site and find the situation requires traffic control, it still falls on you to take the necessary precautions. You may need to recruit the customer for help or have your dispatcher contact local law enforcement for assistance. It is also recommended you coordinate with your helpers on how traffic will be directed, what hand signals will be used, and who will be your spotter. Also, be sure to get out and look at the area you will be backing into first to make sure it's clear. If traffic control and spotters are unavailable and the customer insists you proceed, please call your carrier so they can work with the customer to eliminate any hazards. Lastly, never attempt to back into or out of a facility across traffic lanes at night unless you have help with traffic control. As an added safety measure, turn on your hazard warning lights to make yourself more conspicuous. If traffic control is unavailable at night, find a safe place to park for the night and try to deliver the load the next morning when traffic control is available and visibility improved. Remember, it's better to deliver a load late than risk the consequences of a poor decision. The final loss factor we will discuss is trailer spacing while making a sharp right-hand turn. Run-under crashes can occur when a truck driver swings their articulated vehicle out to make a sharp right-hand turn, but brings the rear of the trailer out too far from the curb. In doing so, it opens up the right-hand lane, where trailing motorists might mistakenly think the truck driver is making a left lane change. They in turn try to pass the truck on the right, unaware it's about to make a sharp right-hand turn. This is commonly referred to as a right turn squeeze when the truck turns into the vehicle and a side impact occurs. Steps can be taken to help prevent a right turn squeeze. As you approach the intersection, remember our essential 7 driving technique and to maintain one lane. Do not swing wide left over the lane divider into the path of oncoming traffic. This will expose you to a potential head-on collision. Instead, maintain one lane and keep the rear of the trailer as close to the curb as possible. This will deter drivers behind you from mistaking your maneuver as a left lane change and inadvertently try to pass you on the right. When it's safe and legal to start your right-hand turn, take it slow and stay in your lane as you enter the intersection. As you proceed, be mindful of any cross traffic appearing unexpectedly. The front of your tractor will possibly cross into the path of oncoming traffic momentarily. If a vehicle appears and doesn't leave you sufficient space, stop and give them room to go by before continuing your turn. Never attempt to back your truck up without spotters and traffic control. This concludes our module on preventing run-under crashes. In review, we discussed there are several driving hazards you may face on a daily basis that are associated with run-under crashes, whether making a left-hand turn at an intersection, crossing traffic lanes, backing into a customer facility, or making sharp right-hand turns. You have the ability to take steps to prevent a run-under crash from occurring. For each of these hazards, we identified loss factors that increase the likelihood of a run-under crash. These include timing, failing to yield, night conspicuity, U-turns, backing across travel lanes, and trailer spacing. Drivers can help prevent run-under crashes by remembering the essential 7 driving techniques of yield the right-of-way. For instance, do not pull into the middle of an intersection and block oncoming traffic. Next, react properly to hazards. If there's not enough time to clear oncoming traffic or a turn is too tight, the best reaction may be to continue forward and find a safer place to double back. And finally, maintain one lane. When approaching any turn, keep to your lane so you can avoid head-on collision. This can also help vehicles behind you from thinking you're changing lanes and try to move up into your blind spot on the right. In addition, we discussed other prevention techniques, such as conducting vehicle inspections to improve conspicuity at night. If for some reason your vehicle is stuck in the middle of a road, use your hazard lights and warning devices to alert oncoming motorists that your vehicle is blocking the road. Furthermore, never make U-turns. Use the 4 right turns method to double back if you miss your turn, and be sure to plan your trip ahead of time so you know where you're going. Another prevention technique is to never back up across travel lanes, especially at night, unless you have traffic control assistance and spotters. It's better to come back the next day and deliver a load late than risk a run-under crash. Also, whether a spotter is available or not, always get out and look at the space you're backing into before starting a backing maneuver. And finally, if making a sharp right-hand turn, practice a button hook maneuver and keep the rear of the trailer as close to the curb as possible to prevent a right turn squeeze. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about preventing run-under crashes. We accomplished our learning objectives today and hope you found the material insightful. Now, as you leave, please take time to reflect on how this message fits into your own personal and professional values. We hope protecting life is a principle you hold so dearly that it's beyond compromise, and you will use the protective driving techniques discussed today to help prevent run-under crashes. On behalf of Great West Casualty Company, we appreciate the invaluable service you bring to our country, as well as your efforts to be a value-driven driver. If you have any additional questions about this program, please contact your Great West Safety Services Department.